Welcome, everyone. Seeing some of you roll in. Alrighty. For those of you just joining us, welcome. We're happy to have you here. Our host and leader for this one, who will be speaking in Arabic for much of it, is actually rejoining. Apparently, there's a internet-related concern, so just be aware. He will join back on momentarily. Take care of us. In the meantime, I can share the screen for that first page, just so you know what we're doing today. There we go. Okay, is that sharing properly? Do you see the Trevor? Okay, thank you, Sammy. Awesome. Hi, Darlene. We are pausing, FYI, for anyone who is just joining us. We're pausing because Roland, our leader of this one, is rejoining as his internet had issues since it's the peak time where he is. So we will get started momentarily. And just to keep us moving so we stay on top of everything, I'm just saying hello. Today we're going to be talking about citizen science in Arabic. Of course, I can't speak Arabic, so if this does happen again, it will be returning to full English if there is any other technical issue. But essentially, we're going to go through what it means to be involved in citizen science from anywhere in the world, but especially with a highlight towards Lebanon and Arabic-speaking countries. And we'll be going over a special project that Sammy is here to tell us about as well. And hopefully, I don't want to tread too much water or go over anything, but in the meantime, we can introduce the rest of us here. So for anyone who is just joining us for the first time for these, my name is Emma. I'm IT support today, but I'm a program coordinator for SciStarter. So that means I just do a lot of events and work with a lot of different partnerships in citizen science. And in that case, that includes live. So I'm often the one hosting these. And Roland will join back in and introduce himself. So we'll skip over that for a moment. But Trevor, do you want to unmute and introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Trevor. I am a volunteer with SciStarter. For today's webinar, you'll be seeing me post links in chat for both Facebook and Zoom. So happy to be here.
Yeah. And on that note, when we're talking about Zoom, there's a couple of things that you can be aware of for this. So we have both the chat and Q&A function available. So for the chat function, if you need to message us about any sudden commentary, like you have a comment on what's being talked about, or if you have a question about technical issues. So if you have an issue with Zoom, you can send that to me or to Trevor, and we'll get that handled for you. The Q&A is also used if you have specific question about the topics discussed. So if that's citizen science, if that's citizen science and Arabic related like questions or regional questions. I will not be the one to be able to respond to those, but Roland will be back on to do those. If you have questions about the featured program, we will have a moment to go through a Q&A with Sammy as well. And just to test that our ability to use the chat is working, for those of us who are online, if you could just introduce yourself in the chat really fast and say where you are. So for example, for me, I would write in the chat, hello, I'm Emma, and I am zooming in from Phoenix, Arizona, or Tempe technically, but Phoenix is more well known. Yeah, so I'm way over in Arizona, which is very far from from some of us on the call, which is great. And I will wait a moment for anyone to respond to that in the chat. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop my share for a moment here. Let's see. Oh, awesome. Now I can see the chat. I was blocking it for whatever reason. Lebanon, UAE, Algeria. Awesome. Oh, wow. Oh, that's so great. Okay, a ton of you from Lebanon. That's so great. I'm so glad y'all are here. I hope Roland will be able to see these things. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so that you can see our guest speaker introduction. Sammy, would you like to give yourself a brief little intro and tell us a bit about who you are?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Emma, for handing it over. Really happy to be with everyone. And I'm assuming everyone's okay with English. Happy to also give a small introduction in Arabic if that's preferred. But yeah, so I'm a co-founder and director of Environment Academy at the American University of Beirut. I've been with the American University of Beirut now for coming on 7 years. Previous to that, I was working with the University of California, Berkeley, which is where I also studied. We were working on restoring Native American water rights, some of the work that I was doing there. And I also worked with the Environmental Protection Agency in the US on issues with marine debris and how we can come up with policies to reduce the amount of plastic pollution going into the Pacific. And I also do several consultancy roles, most notably with the UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. We've been working on a new State of the Environment report for the GCC countries, and my focus has been on the biodiversity chapter. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now, but happy to, like I said, say it in Arabic or also give more information later in the Q&A if relevant.
Okay. Sorry, friends. Okay, we're having a little bit of trouble. So Roland is the quality assurance coordinator for SciStarter, so he should be able to join us momentarily again, but it seems like he just got bumped off again. So I'm going to keep us moving and go through a couple of our polls just to understand who we're talking to. And I see more of us have joined, so thank you, welcome. I'm so glad that everyone could join us. The first question that we want to ask is, have you ever participated in citizen science before? Maybe you've never even heard of it, so your answer might be a maybe because you've done science stuff, or absolutely not because you have zero clue what we're talking about so far. And either of those are okay. But we just want to have a good idea as to what we are looking at right now. Okay. About 50% of you have participated, looking for at least 80. I know we can do that. 70%. A couple more of you, and then I'll pause it. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, this is really great. Okay, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and share the results. So we're looking at about 75% of us have said no to that. I'm excited to introduce you to the world of citizen science then. That's great. And then for those of you who said yes, that small percentage there, we're glad to have you. I'm excited for you to find some new ways to contextualize citizen science. And for those of you who are maybe, hopefully by the end of this, you'll be like, absolutely, I will do these projects later on, right? All right, I'm going to go ahead and send us to another one. Have you ever been to a SciStarter live event? So that would be one of these events. It's weekly on Tuesdays at this time, which could be all kinds of different times for you all. So for me, it's noon. For the East Coast, it's 2 p.m. Eastern. And so on. Was it 9 p.m. for you, Sammy? Is that what it was?
Yeah, exactly. It's 9 p.m. in Lebanon.
My gosh, so grateful you were willing to join us. Thank you so much. Yeah. It looks like the majority of us are saying no. I'm going to wait another second or two. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Ending that poll. All right, so 93% of us have never been to one. Well, I can guarantee you there are fewer technical issues usually. So if you ever want to join back on, hopefully we won't have as many technical issues. It sounds like this is kind of an interesting time for specific countries or systems. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll share the results really briefly just so you can see. So those of you who have been to an event like this before or to our live events, welcome back. Happy to have you. All righty. And then lastly, we would like to know what kind of people we're talking to. So are we talking to aspiring citizen scientists, students, parents, teacher, educator? I used to be a 5th grade teacher myself, so I like always hitting that one of like, yes, I'm an educator. Librarian or librarian staff, research or project leader, a board person on the internet, always a good one. Found us on Facebook and thought, this is absolutely what I want to do when I'm bored today. It's great motivation. Okay, excellent. I'm going to give you another couple seconds. We got about 70% of you in there. Looking for at least 80. All righty, I'm going to go ahead. Oh, awesome. Yay. Okay. All right. So now we're looking at what type of individuals we are. And it looks like the majority of us are educators. That's awesome. Yeah. And some of us are researchers or project leaders, aspiring citizen scientists. Hopefully you can make more of those out of you all by the end of this. And I have at least one person who's a board person on the internet. I love it. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. All righty. So For those of you who are joining us for the first time and have never heard of citizen science, which sounds like quite a few of you, the general idea is that citizen science is all about a collaboration effort. So you're collaborating with scientists and people who are curious, concerned, and motivated to make a difference. So this is something where something in nature or something in science has got you interested and you are curious about it, you're concerned about an issue, and you can actually make an effort to make a difference by doing citizen science. It's how people can make an impact on issues they care about and actually help science in real time. And there are many, many examples of this that we will go through. And Roland collected some description as to what citizen science has led to. And so I'm going to go through a couple of these just to show off like how incredible citizen science and how powerful citizen science can be. My favorite one in particular is the type of aurora in the sky. If you're looking to the top right, this was a discovery by citizen scientists. It's a type of aurora, and they were able to name it Steve. So because they discovered it, they got to name it Steve. And then in addition, there is an invasive mosquito species that has arrived in Germany. So there's all kinds of different types of projects that lead to a lot of different events or different discoveries. So I apologize, I can't see the chat from my screen for some reason. If there are questions, Trevor, feel free to interrupt me if there was anything in the chat that needs to be addressed. If you could please make sure that all of your chats are sent to everyone so that we can all read them as well, that will be beneficial in addition. All right. Great. Now, instead of going through all of these without Roland here, because I know he was excited to share his input on Lebanon specifically, I'm going to pause us with a general understanding of what citizen science looks like and actually move us towards Sammy's presentation. So I'm going to, if you wouldn't mind me sharing it still, Sammy, I will share my screen for that project. Let me just double check. Yeah, okay. All right. Oh, and Roland's back. Yay. Hello. Ooh, hello. Okay. Alrighty. I'm going to check. Roland, do you want to see if you can unmute and see how it goes? There we go.
Hear me now?
Yes. I think it's lagging a little bit. I pushed us forward past your part and we can go back to it now if you want, or we can wait and go through Sammy's.
Okay. Did you go through all these slides?
No, I skipped your information to go straight to Sammy's stuff. So why don't we go through Sammy's presentation first, and then we'll go back to where we stopped. Is that okay? Okay, great. All right, so Sammy, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, but you both can direct me on changing slides.
All right, great. Roland, I believe this is something you may want to pick up on first, and then I'll take it on when Environment Academy comes in.
True. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna try and share my screen again and start from the beginning real quick, okay? Just to introduce citizen science to the attendees.
Sorry, Roland, I did introduce citizen science. Let me go back to where I stopped and we'll just start from there. I didn't mean to confuse.
Okay.
I stopped here. You can just go on as normal.
Okay. Great. Okay, so okay, I will switch to Arabic. أول شيء بونسوار وسوري على المشكلة التقنية اللي صارت معنا. ميرسي كتير لأنكم معنا اليوم. لكن خبروكم شوي عن السيتيزن ساينس. هو عبارة عن لما يشتركوا المواطنين أو أي حدا عنده، مش بالضرورة عنده باك جراوند، ببروجيات وريسيرش يكون هو حقيقي وبيودي لنتائج ملموسة يعني بالعلم. فهون إذا حدا عنده إذا حدا هو ساينتست يعني مهنته ساينتست، بيقدر يخلق بروجكت ويستفيد من الكراود سورسينج تبع الناس كرمال يحصل على الشغل الفولنتيرنج تبعهم وينقل بروجيه على غير ليفل. إذا حدا عم بيعلم بجامعة أو بمدرسة كمان في دخل هالشي بالكوريكولوم تبعهم كرمال يزيد اهتمام التلاميذ بالعلم، ساعتها بيفهموا المادة اللي عم ياخدوها أكثر. وكمان نفس الوقت الفولنتيرنج تايم اللي بيكونوا هن عم بيتقدموا فيه كمان بيساهم ببروجيات حقيقية. يعني كل هيدا الشغل اللي عم بينعمل بيصب بريل ريسيرش. إذا حدا بيشتغل بمكتبة كمان في يعمل هول الكيتس. إذا بتشوفوا الصور اللي تحت الثلاث صور، بيعمل citizen science kits بيأجرهم أو بيعطيهم لأشخاص وبيردوا له إياه. نفس الطريقة مثل ما ممكن يعطيهم كتاب يرجعوا له الكتاب، كمان تيساهموا ببروجيات أكثر بحال ما كان عندهم إكيبمون. هلا الفولنتير اللي هن تقريبا كل الأشخاص الباقيين اللي هن عم بيقوموا بالشغل، في يكون اي حدا ما دخلوا بالمجال العلمي، في يكون عم بيساهم يا بخلق البروجي كو كرييشن او بالديتا كولكشن. يعني بيكون مثلا بيظهر على الطبيعه بيشوف شو بيلاقي سبيسيز ان كان حيوانيه او نباتيه او اي شيء، بيسجل هالشيء. او بالكلاسيفيكيشن ستيج اذا ديجا في حدا عمل عنه هول الداتا كولكشن، هو بيعمل مثل ايدنتيفيكيشن كرمال يا تو ترين الاي اي او كرمال يفرجي، يعني كرمال يصنف الصور اللي اتاخذت واللي انعمل لها ابلود هي صور لشو بتعود لاي سبيسيز. كمان اخر خانتين جزء من جروب لوبينج في يستفيد هول المعلومات، مثل اذا عم بيعملوا مونيتورينج لتلوث الهواء بمنطقه معينه. كمان بمساعده الفولنتيرز اللي هن كميتهم كبيره ممكن يحصل على داتا ويستعملها ليضغط على صانعي القرار. حتى اذا حدا جيمر مثل ما رح نشوف هلا بالسكرين شوتس، كمان في العاب في بروجيات سيتيزن ساينس هن معمولين على شكل لعبه، فالواحد هو وعم بيتسلى هو وعم بيقطع وقت تنقول بيكون كمان منتج وعم بيساهم بتقدم العلم. Next slide please. Next slide. اوكي مثلا هون ستول كاتشرز، هون عباره عن انه اوكي هول برين سكانز للفيران. اذا بتشوفوا اذا بنكبس بلاي رح نحط اوكي ثانك يو تريفر، عم نحط لكم اللينكس تبع كل بروجي من اللي عم بيمرقوا. لما تكبسوا بلاي مثلا بتصيروا تشوفوا حركه الدم بالعروق بهيدا الدماغ، محل ما بيبين مسكر، يعني محل ما بيكون في فلو معين. هون السيتيزن ساينتست الشخص اللي عم يساهم بهالبروجي بيكبس الماوس، بيحط الكورسور وبيكبس كرمال يحدد وين في مثل مسكر الشريان، وهالشي بيساعد بخانة الألزهايمر ريسيرش. Next slide please. اوكي هون هيدا بروجي سيتيزن ساينس من الأكثر شيء بسيطين، يعني في يكون بكل بساطة عبارة عن فورمولير. إذا حدا ظهر تنقول على الطبيعة وشاف تنقول سنجاب بمنطقته، بيحط إنه كم شو لونه قديش شاف. هلا إذا بننزل نعمل سكرول هلا بالسكرين شوت، بس إذا بنعمل سكرول بيحدد أمتين شافه وبيعمل أبلود للصورة مثل هي بروف زيادة إنه كان موجود بهالمحل، والصورة فيها التاريخ وفيها الكوردينيتس، ففيها كل شيء. يمكن تبين انه هي مثل لفتة صغيرة او مساعدة صغيرة، بس على كمية السيتيزن ساينتست صورة ورا صورة بيعملوا كتير فرق. Next slide please. اوكي هون نفس الشيء، بدل ما نصور مثلا السناجب بنصور هيدي اسمها باد بيرست. بنصور مثل بعتقد براعم الشتل اول ما يزدهروا، نعمل ابلود لهالصوره. هيدي انا اخذها الصوره مثلا، وبنحدد باي فاز الزهره والفروت مع شويه ديتيلز زياده كمان. Next slide. هون الكلاسيفيكيشن اللي خبركم عنه. مثلا هون اللي عم تشوفوه بالصورة اللي على اليمين هن كاميرات مزروعين بهالمحمية بنفس الطريقة، كأنه حدا صور وعمل أبلود. من بعد ما ينعمل أبلود لهالصور، هون بيجي دور الكلاسيفيكيشن. بيجوا سيتيزن ساينتست تانيين بيشوفوا بيطلعوا بالصورة، وإذا فيها حيوان بنقوا نوعه من الشمال، من الصور الأربعة اللي على الشمال. إذا لا بيحط نو أنيمال مثلا، بيكمل. لأنه ال AI بعد ما وصل لمرحلة يقدر يصنف هولي أوتوماتيكما، وعدد الأشخاص اللي هن ساينتست أقل بكتير من الحاجة. يعني هيدا الشغل فيه يعمله أي حدا، أي شخص، ومش بحاجة لساينتست. وبالتالي هون citizen science في يلعب دور كثير مهم بالكلاسيفيكيشن بروسيس. next slide. اوكي، هون هي البروجي اسمه scribes of the Chirogeneza. فهول الواحد بيعمل ترانسكريبشن. هون نقيت قصدا انا السكرين شوت اللي فيها عربي، لانه بتعملوا سelection اذا شايفين النقطة الخضراء على اليمين وعلى الشمال باول سطر. مثلا هون بنقي سطر انا، وبهيدا السطر بدي اكتب نفس الشيء حسب الاون سكرين كيبورد. يعني بحط شو هن الاحرف وكمل. next slide. هيدي اوكي، هون بلشنا بالجيمز. مثلا هيدي جيم اسمها إترنا، عبارة عن بازل، وفيها تكون عن جد تشالنجينج، وبالنهاية لعبة. يعني البروجي معمول بشكل لعبة، من خلاله بنكون عم نتعرف أكثر على ال RNA structures، ونقدم ونساعد بتقدم الطب. next slide please. اوكي، هاي كمان فيديو جيم على غير مستوى. يعني هيدي ايف اونلاين اللي هي ماسفلي اونلاين جيم، فيها جزء من مراحلها الصورة اللي عم تشوفوها تحت على اليمين. بقلب اللعبة الواحد بيكون عم يساعد كرمال احتمال انه نلاقي اكزو بلانتس اللي هن كواكب برات نظامنا الشمسي. فبقلب هاللعبة اللي هي كتير immersive وكتير ناجحة، يعني الديفلوبرز زادوا دخلوا السيتيزن ساينس element للهاردكور جيمرز، يعني مثل ما هو واضح. next slide. okay can I try to share my screen, Emma? Thanks.
Yes. I recommend turning your video off, by the way, just in case that helps with the audio while you're sharing. Perfect.
okay. لكن كرمال تتعرفوا أكثر على citizen science، في عنا على الويب سايت SciStarter.org هول التريننجز. هلا رح نحط اللينكس. ببلشوا بالفاونديشنز تريننج، فيه كل شيء بالتفصيل. واحد من كرمال يتقدم الشخص اذا ما بيعرف شيء على سيتيزن ساينس تيصير بيعرف كل البيسكس. فهو كثير يوزر فريندلي هالانترودكشن. وهون بتشوفوا البروجرس تبعكم بكمل وانتراكتيف. يعني مثلا اذا بتشوفوا كيف شو ما تكبسوا هون بتبين ديسكريبشن كيف ممكن تدخلوها بالاشياء اللي بتحبوها لسيتيزن ساينس. في فيديوز كل شوي بيسالوكم سؤال كرمال تتاكدوا انه you assimilated the correct information. بالاخر في عندكم كويز. لما تخلصوا الكويز بتاخذوا هول البادجز اللي يمكن خبروكم عنهم. ومن بعد ما تخلصوا هال فاونديشنز تريننج بيصير فيكم تكملوا بهوليك. اوكي، هون حابب خبركم على السريع عن التنوع بلبنان وكل الاشياء الحلوه بلبنان. وبيرجع بيخبرنا سامي عن التحديات اللي عم نواجهها بلبنان كرمال نحافظ على هالثروه وهالجمال. مثلا لبنان نعرف انه كتير صغير. يعني حجمه الاريا تبعيته 0.007% من كل المساحه على الارض بالعالم. بس بالرغم من هالشيء 0.8% من السبيسيز موجودين عليه. وفي 12% of endemic species موجودين بالمنطقة. endemic species هن اللي موجودين بس بهالمحل معين. يعني مش بس native، هن الموجودين بس بهالمحل مش بمحل تاني. ومنطقة الشرق الأوسط الثالثة عالميا لما نحكي بالأنديميك سبيسيز. أوكي، هون تنوع لبنان بالنباتة، أكيد الأرزة نعرفها. بالفونجاي كمان، فونجي سوري، هو كمان موجودين بلبنان. موسم المشروم هانتينج ببلش تقريبا من أكتوبر للربيع، وفي كثير دراسات، في كثير يعني الدراسات المعمولة عن هالموضوع كثير قليلة، وبالتالي في يكون potential كبير للسيتيزن ساينس على القليلة to document السبيسيز الموجودين بهالمنطقة. اوكي، كمان توبوغرافية لبنان كثير متنوعة، يعني في البحر، في الجبل، في عنا كل المناخات بهالرقعة الصغيرة. قرنية السوداء هي أعلى قمة بالشرق، 3100 متر تقريبا. ثقافيا كمان، اللي هي على فكرة كل شيء، يعني كل شيء ساينس في له ممكن يتطبق عليه citizen science including social science لما نحكي الثقافة. فلبنان على حجمه الصغير عنا 18 طائفة. و تنكمل هلأ بنصير مع سامي يخبرنا أكثر عن Environment Academy وشو التحديات اللي عم يواجهوها وشو الشغل اللي عم يعملوه.
Thank you, Roland. Another thank you to the team at SciStarter for inviting us. I'll just go straight into it ونرجع بنقول لكم عفوا إذا عم ننقل كتير عليكم من العربي للإنجليزي. But I'll continue in English just because it's easier for me to present these points in English. Okay, so as Roland very eloquently laid out for us, the country has an oversized impact in terms of its biodiversity value, in terms of water resources and other amazing natural features that we have in the small country. But at the same time, unfortunately, we suffer from many environmental breakdowns. And these are some of the stats that you're seeing at the top, you know, such as 70% of our water at the point of use at the tap is you know, oftentimes contaminated with fecal coliforms. We also have major water shortages. We have major deforestation happening now because of the fuel crisis. In the far north of the country, in Akad, you'll see you know, 3, 4, 5 times more deforestation happening in this year than the 2019 period. We have over 900 open trash dumps in a country that is, like Roland also mentioned, very small. For reference, it's smaller than the county of Los Angeles in the US. And you know, we have to ask ourselves, why did we get into this situation? Oftentimes we hear go-to words like corruption and things like this, but we can break it down a little bit more to understand why we're in the situation that we're in. And I'll later, you know, touch on how citizen science becomes extremely important, we believe, in order to get us out of this situation. So we have issues with trust. As some of you may know, there was a popular revolution, popular uprising, you could call it, that happened towards the end of 2019 in Lebanon. This further fractured the trust between the public and the government, and between funders and the government. And, you know, it's very hard to govern when you don't have trust in public services. You have a lack of coordination happening. So many of the big actors are working only by themselves. There isn't this kind of strategic cooperation in order to better distribute resources. And because you have so many government shortcomings, we can call them that, you end up with a big NGO sector. I mean, we have so many local and medium and NGOs operating in the country, but unfortunately, this usually means sporadic action. In other words, we don't have action on an issue such as delivering water to households for a long period of time. you'll have the action in the period of the project, which is concerning because people don't need water only for this year or two while the project is being implemented, but they need it in the long term, obviously. And so, because of all of these issues, you end up with around 4.5 billion in aid given to this small country between 2019 and 2021, but little to show for that money that's been invested. And in the center that I'm based at the American University of Beirut, we've actually used citizen science in a number of ways over the last 7-8 years to try and bring forward solutions to some of these issues. But we felt like we weren't getting the results we needed, the transformative results that we need. And so this was why we created Environment Academy. And you can go to the next slide, please. There might be a little lag in my screen sharing. Okay, so what is Environment Academy? We are a televised, community-born, and expert-supported movement, and we're dealing with some of the most urgent environmental threats that you just heard about in Lebanon. We know that what we're doing is also very relevant to not just Lebanon, but many other communities that are facing environmental breakdown, both in the developing world and in the developed world. And so we keep in mind, how we can always share knowledge about this with others that are interested. So what we're doing is we're really rethinking who gets to dictate solutions and how these many stakeholders that are part of solution making are pulled in. We believe that the most genuine concern over real solutions lies with the community. So community members, in other words, and I'm going to keep using this example on water, somebody who lives in a village in some part of Lebanon who's been receiving very little water, and when it comes, it's contaminated, is really concerned for their family's sake and for their sake to get good water, and to have a stable supply of that water. There's a genuine drive to make that happen. Whereas other experts or media organizations or funders have other priorities that they might bring to the table. Not only do they want to get water, but they want to brand, for example, that they're the ones who got water and build geopolitics, for example, in the area. So that's why we really try and empower community members and try and put science in the hands of these community members. And we believe that using citizen science to meet and sustain these community goals is really our first and foremost objective. We don't only want to use citizen science to further a scientific goal. We think there's huge application in using these methods and approaches and amazing kits like Roland was showing us and these toolkits and whatnot in order to bring about real change. So you were calling it lobbying in the previous slides. I would take it a step further and calling it, activism that actually can be done using citizen science. Next slide, please. Loading, I think it's, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna just touch base on this before I run you through our process. What are we doing really and how do we do it? These are the expert mentors that we are pulling from across the world. They are primarily Lebanese diaspora. We really want to create a more, if you want, robust relationship between diaspora and communities in Lebanon, where the way that they can help is not only through giving donations and giving funding back to the country, but giving their expertise back to the country and doing it not in a hackathon over a weekend with I don't know what institution, but doing it over 1.5 years of intensive collaboration. And that's a minimum. I mean, some of the communities are working with us now for 2.5 years. And so you have high-level people, that are willing to give this kind of effort, meeting on average twice every month for a period of 1.5 years. professors in UC Davis in California, lead scientists in atmospheric chemistry in Switzerland, heads of department in solid waste management in San Francisco, and many other experts that are involved with us, that are really some of the top. And I think, we're really happy we've been able to, a measure of our success is that we're able to inspire these experts to keep working with these communities for as long as they do. And I can touch base on why we think that is in the next slide. But I'll just say at the bottom, you'll see these are junior mentors. These are students at AUB that are also working with the community teams in order to bring forward their goal. So I'll talk now in the next slide, if you can move to that one, about what our process is and how we achieve this goal of just transformation. All right, so this is my best attempt at simplifying what is a pretty layered process that we go through at Environment Academy. So what we do, like I said, we are televised. We are working with a media partner. We broadcast that we're doing a cycle of EA with the media partner, also on our social media channels. And this, really lets a lot of people know that if they would like to take action on an environmental threat that they're dealing with, we're ready to support them in doing so. So sometimes this initiates an action. Sometimes there's an ongoing action that the community's been up to. And what we ask them to do is form themselves into a community team. These are 3 to 6 people that are either originally from or living within this community. And we ask that there's also some gender balance there. And really, that's it. They then put forward an application, and we then spend around a month or 2 working with them on improving that application, because we want a common citizen, somebody who's a layperson, as we call them, to be able to feel like they can engage in this process. We don't want only, if there's happens to be an NGO experienced person or an expert in environment and living in the area to come forward. We want, for example, the family member who's very concerned about the health of their children because of the water quality to also feel like they can do something. So we level this playing field, and then we work with around 40 experts from across the world again in order to review these applications that we received. So in our first cycle, we had around 500 community members show interest. In our second cycle, which is the one we're currently still in, we had around 350. And of those, they formed themselves into around 50 community teams in the final stage. We selected 12 community teams coming from 11 communities. One community has 2 community teams working on 2 different issues. And so as soon as we select these community teams, on the basis of urgency and their ability to think about a solution, we are immediately lifting up these struggles. Some of these communities, you cannot find them on Google Maps. Some of these communities do not have a municipality. They are very marginalized areas. So they are going on TV suddenly, talking about their issue, talking about who they are. And this is, the uplift that comes from media. And of course, AUB is a very respected institution in the country. And so they also feel the uplift of having a very credible institution backing them up in dealing with this struggle. Then we move into matching with a diaspora expert. Like we showed you in the previous slide, this is on the basis of what issue the community is dealing with. So we are dealing with issues of wildfire, we're dealing with issues of biodiversity loss, we're dealing with issues of water quality, water supply, solid waste, open dumping, community green spaces, essentially any issue that the community would like to deal with, anything that they think they no longer want to tolerate and they now want to take action on it. And the matching is done, on this basis, a technical basis, if you will. You're dealing with wildfires. Here's a wildfire expert that's ready to work with you for that long period. And we then move into collaborative production. This means that we are not only interested in understanding the issue from a scientific perspective, we are also interested in understanding the issue in terms of local knowledge. So we might be experts in the science, but the community is an expert in the local context. And that's very, very important for change making. We need to know that there is political disputes, for example, in the area between this family and this family. And that's part of the reason why water is not given equally across the community, for example. This is extremely important knowledge that the community team holds, and we share that knowledge. So we as scientists and experts are listeners many of times while they're teaching us about what we need to think about in order to deal with this issue. And we'll do many different kinds of citizen science in this stage. We have some communities that are doing water quality tests. They'll look at some key parameters that tell us about the quality of their water. We have other communities that are doing line transects to understand the health of the ecosystem that they're looking to preserve or sustainably manage. This will allow you to see what kind of biodiversity is living in the forest. We have other communities that are doing waste characterization assessments. This is to look at how much of our trash is plastic, how much is organic, how much is refuse, etc. And obviously, all of this knowledge is the basis on which we form a best fit solution. And once we make that best fit solution, it depends on each community. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 1 year. Here we are, 1 year and 5 months working with the EA cycle 2, and some communities don't even have a best fit solution yet, but we're not giving up on them. We're still working on making that possible. Then we collectively implement. So each area might have, like we said, some have a municipality, some do not. Some we might need to involve the water authority. Others we might need to, for example, bring in an expert that knows a specific species that we suddenly realized is of high biodiversity value and is threatened. This kind of thing is what we mean by collective implementation of the solution. And most importantly, we try and form long-term relationships. We have a saying that we refer to in Environment Academy, which is that you have a start date with us, but not an end date. And we really try and bring these communities on. And as long as they would like to be supported in this activism that they're doing, we're ready to support them. And to create accountability levers for the solution to move forward. Like we said, a lot of investments are wasted. We want to try and see how the community involvement in the operation and the governance of the solution can make it more sustainable and long-term. Next slide, please. That one was a dense one. Okay, so I'm not gonna take too much more on describing Environment Academy. I'll leave some time for us in the Q&A, of course. But here's some of the achievements that we've really been able to make. And I'll be honest with you. At the beginning of this year, we were extremely worried about the scale of the issues that we were dealing with, the amount of resources we'd be able to raise for these communities, because we really are working on a volunteer basis. Those mentors that you saw, the community teams, everyone is volunteering. So nobody is getting paid to do this work. It's out of a passion and a belief that we can make the places we call home better. And so, we've had really tremendous success in our cycle 2 as well. We've been able to fundraise for around 70% of the projects. And that means a lot of material impact, as you'll see with these numbers. But I want to also point our attention to the less material or non-material impacts that are being had too, which is empowerment that the community teams are really feeling. They are being put on the decision-making tables with these municipalities, with the big figures in the area. One example is in Fanar. Maybe some of you know this village, which is an urban area also in Lebanon. The community team leader went from being completely ignored by the municipality in the first 4 or 5 attempts to meet with them to, at the end of Environment Academy's collaboration with them, being the environmental police of the village, and the municipality fully giving her ownership to go ahead and give fines if she wants to, if she sees people littering or not sorting waste at the source. So this real empowerment that comes out of the process is so important, and the learning that comes out of it as well. So, you know, we're not just interested in learning so that you can do better on your next exam. We're interested in the kind of learning that allows you to change your value systems, build better relationships with the people that live around you and the ecosystems that you live within. And just want to highlight those kinds of dimensions of what we're doing, in addition to closing open dumps and providing community members with water, etc. And I think that's it, right, Roland? There's no other slide for me after this one.
Yeah, please continue. Were you saying something?
If you couldn't hear me, Roland, I was asking if this was the last slide. I think it is, right? There's no other slide for me. Yeah, just a big thanks again to all the audience members for joining. I hope you find it interesting. I'm extremely excited by citizen science, and really what Roland showed us also is just, I mean, I don't know how people cannot be excited to be part of big breakthroughs and real change making. So thanks to the team at SciStarter for pushing citizen science forward around the world.
Thank you for being with us. I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but do you usually contact when you find an area that needs help? Do you usually reach out, or they reach out to you?
Yeah, so we're trying to move away from this idea of target area that is very common in NGO language. You know, we think that when community members are ready to do something about an issue they're facing, we want to give them an opportunity to approach us. So we're not going and saying, oh, that place really needs water right now, you know, or this place can really use some sustainable management of their forest. We're doing an open announcement, an open invitation, and communities are organizing as they will and approaching us. So like I said, we're now in EA cycle 2. We're imagining closing out our EA cycle 2 in 3 to 4 months, and starting to launch EA cycle 3, which is when anybody living in Lebanon, and we hope other countries soon, you know, we're thinking about how we can make this valuable for other places. So anybody living in a community in Lebanon can organize themselves and approach with an application. And I wish we could select more, but that's the resources we have.
Wow. And you mentioned that you are volunteers, so that's even more impressive.
Yeah, I mean, disclaimer, I'm paid by Lebanese standards, so not much, but still, I mean, at the end of the day, everyone who's involved is doing it. Even the core team, which is just 4 or 5 that are, you know, on payroll, are really doing it for the passion. I mean, we really try and maximize the money that we raise going directly into the communities. We don't work with overhead budgets so much, you know. We really try and minimize that. So yeah, it is volunteer heavy for sure.
Wow. So thanks again. If anyone has some questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. And if you'd like to add something, Sami, please also feel free. And thank you again for being with us.
There were a few questions in it wasn't the Q&A, but the chat. I just wanted to make sure some things were highlighted because they were relatable to quite a few of us. The idea of the community empowerment and personal advocacy and how inspiring it is really beautiful. So there's a lot of great messages in the chat about how how excited we are for the work that you do. There are a couple of questions. I had one, I'm not able to write in the Q&A, I apologize. I'm just wondering, do you have any specific like moment or memory that you kind of hold on to as a way to like that motivates you to do this work? Like what was the moment for you that made you want to be a part of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main things that is a frustration that I've turned into a motivation, if you will, is that really nobody's coming to pull us out of this mess, you know? And this whole idea of a hero complex and that, you know, soon the government will get their act together, soon they'll take the necessary actions for climate change. You know, these are global conversations, very relatable, not just here. I think is a dangerous thing to go down. And so once, you know, I was really seeing to what extent actually there can be deliberate not solving of these issues, deliberate intensification of them, even though you know that people's lives are on the line and they're on the line now, not, you know, in a few years or whatnot. And that there's still just a negligence or disregard, or even sometimes a bad intention, you know, because it gives you power, profit, attention, etc. These figures will move forward with some horrible things. And so that was kind of why, and this goes back to that slide that I mentioned, is asking this question, well, where's the most genuine drive for real transformative action? And that goes back to the people that are at the front lines, you know. And so that's kind of a realization that I continue to deepen in and use to inspire the work that we're doing. And I think that's the case for many of the people involved.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, we have a question in the chat from Dr. Elias Matar. If he has a sociological study to implement, who should he contact for that?
Yeah, so I think if maybe we can, I don't know if we can unmute participants to just give a little bit of, or not.
Elias, if you don't mind, I'm going to hit a button that allows you to talk. So you'll be able to, oh, there we go. Just kidding, someone beat me to it.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I don't.
طيب أنا بدي أحكي بالعربي لأنه أنتوا قلتوا هيدا الويبينار بالعربي صار كله بالإنجليزي مبين.
بعتذر منك.
أكيد أكيد.
عندي أنا داخل بجمعية اسمها Generation Bridges وبدنا نعمل دراسة عن Generation Gap. وهيدا الدراسة بدها كتير ناس يشتركوا فيها، كبار بالعمر وصغار بالعمر، لحتى نجرب نطلع بنوعا ما indicator للجنريشن جاب بالمجتمع اللبناني، ولربما بالمستقبل تتطور هيدي لكل المجتمعات. يعني بدنا نعرف نحن حالة العلاقات بين الأجيال، ونشوف على مستوى الفاليوز، على مستوى القيم، على مستوى الأذواق، على مستوى المواقف، على مستوى المعتقدات، شو الفروقات بين الأجيال المختلفة. وهيدي بدها بتصور أعداد كبيرة وخرج مشروع citizen science. فبس هيك يعني حبيت شوف أنا إذا واحد عنده هيك مشروع كيف معقولة هالكوميونيتي أو هالجروب هيدا SciStarter تيم يقدر يساعدني إذا بدي بلش أعمل شيء على هالموضوع. هاي أول شيء. ثاني شيء، إذا أنا بدي رجعت سألتكم السؤال بالQ&A،
صح،
إذا أنا بدي يصير citizen science volunteer لوين بدي أروح؟ لمين بدي أتجه؟ أنا إنه بدي ساعد في الدراسات.
إذا قصدك دكتور إلياس هيك إنه بالمطلق أكيد البلاتفورم تابعتنا في عليها كتير بروجيكتس وفرص، ما بعرف إذا قصدك بالكونتكست تبع الانفايرمنت أكاديمي.
لا اكيد انفايرمنت اكاديمي ما لها علاقه بالموضوع تبعي، هن عم يشتغلوا بيئه. بس انا اذا بدي يصير ايه، اذا بدي يصير فولنتير بالانفايرمنت اكاديمي، شو لازم اعمل؟ بتلفن لدكتور سامي كايد او انه شو لازم اعمل حتى ساعده؟ انه انا مثلا انا في عندي عم بتقولوا شامبينيون، انا عندي نوعين شامبينيون بالجنينه، حابب صورهم وابعث الصور، لمين بدي ابعثهم مثلا؟
اوكي، مثلا في بروجكت هلا بنبعت اللينك هو اي ناتشرالست. هيدا بنعمل ابلود عليه كل شيء سبيسيز، كل شيء عايش يعني plants fungi او animals، بنعمل ابلود للسبيسيز ومع اللوكيشن تاج وامتين تصورت. ومبدئيا هيدي الكونتريبيوشن ممكن تنعمل يعني اذا if you encounter any species، ها هي go to way. فهلا بنحط اللينك بالشات. وميرسي على السؤال.
ورولان بس بدي اقول بعتقد دكتور الياس عم يقول كرمال الاول بروجكت اللي كان عم يحكينا عنها، اذا بده يخلق citizen science project على SciStarter، حسب ما فهمت من حضرتك دكتور الياس انه عم تجرب تشوف مثل ما تفضلت انه it's a sociology study بدكم تعملوها، بس بدك تدخل citizen scientists. بعتقد انه رولون فسر شوي عن هالشيء، انه اذا بدك تخلق new citizen science project كمان في مجال على SciStarter platform.
اوكي ثانك يو.
ميرسي دكتور. اوكي رح نرجع ننقل على العربي. ميرسي بعد مرة لكل اللي انضموا لنا. إذا بهمكم كمان كل جمعة كل ثلاثة بنفس الوقت في عنا ايفنت مختلف بنوفمبر 29 ديسمبر 6 و 13، هول أقرب شيء واصلين لهم. كمان رح نحط اللينك بالشات إذا بدكم تسيفوا اللينك عنكم وتشوفوا شو في الايفنتس كمان اللي من بعد هول. Citizen Science Month كمان كل ابريل من كل سنه بنكون عم نحتفل ب Citizen Science Month. كمان بنجرب قد ما فينا نكثف الشغل بهالدومين، كرمال اهم شيء نزيد التوعيه ويصيروا الناس بيعرفوا فيه اكثر، لانه عن جد فيه بوتنشل كثير مهم. لازم نقدر نوصل بين اللي بيبل والساينتست يتعاونوا مع بعض والكل يكون ربحان يعني. اوكي، اخر شيء كمان رح نرجع نحط لكم اللينكس بالشات ورح نبعث لكم اياهم بالايميل اذا سجلتوا، اذا عم تحضرونا على زوم. كمان شو ما تعوزوا بتبعتوا لنا ايميل او بتعملوا التريننجز. انا اكيد انه رح تحبوا التريننجز. اذا حدا بيعلم كمان فكره مش عاطله ابدا انه يعطي التريننج لتلاميذه، اللي هي طريقه كتير مدروسه وافيشنت تيعرفهم على سيتيزن ساينس. في عنا كمان بودكاست اذا بتحبوا تسمعوه. والبروجكت فايندر هو من اهم التولز اللي عنا، اللي بيوصلكم بتقريبا 1600 اكتف بروجكت موجودين على البلاتفورم تبعيتنا. شيء بينعمل اونلاين، شيء بينعمل شيء بينعمل اندور، شيء اوت دور. فكل حدا الا ما يلاقي شيء مثل ما هو بيحب على البلاتفورم. وميرسي بعد مرة. وجماعة الجي في عنا الاسنشال 2023 Citizen Science Gift Guide. ميرسي لكم كمان.
Thank you. تصبحوا على خير.
ميرسي سامي، ميرسي أنا كنت معنا.
Thank you so much. If there were any other questions or anything, I'm going to allow anyone to speak up if you would like to. It keeps you muted, but if you would like to ask any questions still, you are allowed to in the meantime. I apologize, I don't know what was said already. because I speak one word of Arabic apparently, which I can barely pronounce, but sounded wonderful. Roland, I apologize if you already said something to like end it, but just in case there were any questions, we wanted to make sure that anyone who wanted to speak, if they wanted to add anything in.
إذا أي حدا بيحب يعمل مداخلة بيقدروا يعملوا unmute على راحتكم أكيد. ورح نبعت كل اللينكس، كنت عم شوف بالشات، رح نبعت كل اللينكس اللي مرقوا اليوم واللي ذكرناهم بالإيميل. فممكن شوي.
Great.
Waiting for a few seconds.
We're 3 minutes after, so if there aren't any questions, then we will end our recording and stream and all that.
Yes.
That's okay. Okay, yep. Thank you, Darlene. Yeah, everyone will receive a link to the recording as well, which might have been mentioned in Arabic. I don't know. Not sure. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop our stream to Facebook then. Boom.
Okay.
Send it. And I'll stop our recording. Thanks, everyone.